This is a HeadGum podcast.
Hello and welcome to The Complete Guide to Everything, a podcast about everything. I'm one of your hosts, Tom.
And I'm Tim.
Tim, how are you doing this week?
Tom, I have a lot of energy despite the fact that I haven't slept at all this week.
That's called being a new dad.
Sure is. But
Yeah.
I'm feeling great.
Or have you been staying up all night just reading spooky stories or something?
I scare myself with spooky stories, and then I have to, then I can't sleep, so I have to play video games to calm myself down.
I know
but then
for a
sometimes
while
it's like Resident Evil.
Oh, boy. That
gets in the mix, and then I'm scared all over again.
Yeah. You got to be careful before you put the CD in. Check the label.
Yeah.
I know for a while you were trying to make yourself fall asleep through getting so scared you would faint.
Exactly, and that was pretty effective.
Right.
But the doctor said I had to stop.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
and that's not a restful sleep. That's a pretty fitful sleep.
Exactly.
I've
I wound
been-
up waking up my wife with my screaming.
did I ever tell you that happened to me once? Somewhat recently, like I was asleep, but I had sleep paralysis going on, and I knew it was sleep paralysis, but at the same time my eyes were closed, so it's like, well, I can't know for sure if this is sleep paralysis or if I'm in a UFO right now and they're about to, start putting needles in my eyes or whatever. People are always making jokes about like, I want to go get abducted by aliens and have them probe my ass. You'd be lucky if that's all you can do. Watch a little movie called Fire in the Sky where they put a needle in the guy's eye after using one of those Clockwork Orange things to keep it open.
Yeah. How did we get to aliens?
Oh, but
Record time.
I couldn't tell if I had sleep paralysis or I was being abducted by aliens, so I started screaming.
No, Tom. That's not a rational
Well,
response
I couldn't
to
move.
anything.
It worked. I wasn't really screaming, but it was enough. My girlfriend next to me just heard me going like this.
That's worse than screaming.
And she woke me up, and I was grateful she woke me up. That was pretty much my plan. Like, if this is just sleep paralysis, maybe I can make enough noise to get my girlfriend to, paralyze me.
You know what I do with sleep paralysis?
What?
How I deal with it? You just let it ride. Just know that, hey, it's sleep paralysis. Guess what? You know what I'll do? I'll fall back asleep. Extra sleep.
No, that's how they get you, Tim. That's how you're going to wind up with a needle in your eye. Well, it's funny you bring up sleeping because that was something I wanted to talk to you about today. Because this week, Tim, I had a dream where I accidentally killed you.
Okay.
And
I'm listening.
it's one of those dreams where I can't I didn't know how I did it. Like it didn't happen in the dream. It was like, some of
Were
the
you disappointed that you didn't get to live it?
No, it's just some of the worst dreams are the ones where it feels like you were dropped in like halfway through the dream.
Yeah.
And you've got to catch up on wait, what was going on?
Yeah, it's like a David Lynch movie. It's like that guy's talking to me and he's on the phone with me at the same time in another place.
Yeah, how come this wasn't set up earlier?
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened in this dream. You had somehow been accidentally killed. I don't know how. And I don't even know for sure if it was me. I think it might have just been that people are going to think it was me. And somehow I was like, this sucks. What am I going to do?
That your good friend was dead.
No, it was mostly just that I was afraid.
It
was all about me. And I somehow had an idea that was a perfect way to get rid of your body. And then I thought, like, oh, his family's probably going to ask about him. And then I was trying to think, like, maybe they won't ask me. And then I thought it would be very funny if you just disappeared and nobody ever asked me about it. Nobody ever.
I mean, I don't know if my family knows how to get in contact with you.
I think they'd figure it out. They'd go to my mom's house probably if push came to shove. She lives in the same house. And would be like, hi, can we talk to your son? Our son's been missing for 3 months. And he's refusing to speak with us.
What would you do, Tom, if you had been involved in my murder, and then you had to do this show every week? Would you get Christine back in here and you'd be like, the search for Tim continues, or like, 'cause you can't let the streak end, right? We've been doing this for too long.
Yeah, I think the bigger question is, would I let Christine in on, like, yeah, look, Tim's not coming back, if you know what I mean. If you read between the lines.
I know we're talking about my murder at your hands.
As she sits in my apartment that smells awful. It smells so bad. I'm like, I don't know what happened to Tim.
I don't want to give you advice for this type of situation, but I wouldn't trust Christine with a secret like that.
No, I don't think I would either. I'd probably get, you know what? I would have to go for maybe somebody that wasn't as good of a fit, but was very good at keeping a secret.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Jinx is dead.
The Jinx can't keep a secret.
That's true.
He'll burp and reveal to everybody.
Yeah, but then he'll be involved, so he'll have to get his lawyers to help me out too.
Yeah, and also, like, he'd tell you, like, oh, here's what you should do with the head, and if they never find the head,
if
they
don't
can't
find
touch
the head
it.
and hands, they can't prove anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I was like, and this part makes me seem like a really good person. I was like, I can't.
I mean, already you just seem like a real stand-up guy.
I was like, I can't hide his body and just pretend like I didn't know what happened to it. Like, eventually his wife will probably confront me about it. And then I'll have to lie to her, and
It does make you seem like a real good guy.
And I don't think I could
right.
lie. I don't think I could lie to her face. But then, dream logic, as I'm thinking this, I'm like, wait a minute. Tim's been dead for 3 days and nobody's even asked about him. Maybe I will just get away with this. Maybe he was, in everybody's way, and everybody's not going to ask too many questions about old Tim.
Why would you tell me about this dream, Tom?
Well, I'm just letting you.
All right, who else do we know that you think would want to murder me?
No, it wasn't a murder. It was an accidental killing.
Okay, and just nobody cared that I was dead?
I don't know if nobody cared. I think everybody thought maybe you just ran away. Like, that was just kind of assumed, that it was like, well, we all knew sooner or later Tim was going to ditch everybody and just go start a new life. I guess that's what he's done.
If I didn't start a family, if I wasn't, like, married with a child, Tom,
yeah.
I think at some point I probably would have, like, if 26-year-old Tim just continued, like, down
the path he was on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it'd be like, one day you just wouldn't see me again.
Yeah, I mean, in the dream, I don't think you had a kid, and I don't know if you were even married. Like, I knew I would have to speak with you.
You were married to my wife. Yeah, you've told me about this dream many times before, Tom.
And she was telling me, like, how much happier she was. No, I think because she existed in the dream, but I think you were, she was still just your girlfriend in the dream. Because I think that weighed in where I was like, she's just his girlfriend. Like, she can get a new boyfriend. She's not going to raise too much of a stink.
She could get a new husband, too, yeah.
But, like, a husband's going to require paperwork and stuff. Getting a new boyfriend, it's easy. You just download an app. Bingo, bango, new boyfriend.
Yeah, that's how it works these days, Tom.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never I've never used an app to meet people.
I've never, not even a Lyft driver, Tim. You know, it's that kind of lying.
Touche.
It's that kind of lying, Tim, is why people don't even look for you when you're missing because they assume,
Yeah, exactly.
He's lying.
They're glad that I'm dead.
He
Yeah.
ran. Nobody knew you were dead. That was the whole thing. And then at some point in my head, it was like, maybe nobody will ever think he's dead. And maybe I won't have to. But guess what? At the end of the dream, Tim, I decided I had to, I was like, I got to go tell the police that I accidentally killed him. Like, I'm not going to be able to deal with this guilt. And then I realized, I was like, wait a minute, I'm in a dream. All I have to do is scream real loud. My girlfriend will wake me up. I can get out of here. No, but you know how, like, you have those dreams that are just like, you're just thrown into like a really awful situation. And you're like, man, I would do anything for this not to be my reality.
Right, because you were afraid you were going to get in trouble.
Yeah. It was also dream.
Or you just didn't want to deal. You didn't want to talk to the authorities.
No,
it was like an accident.
It was like dream logic where you weren't like really dead, I think.
Okay. Well, Tom, this doesn't make you look like a good person. The fact that you had this dream and the fact that you're gleefully recounting it to me.
Not gleefully. It was very upsetting, what I was going to do about it. If I was going to lie or not.
Right.
And ultimately, I decided I don't think I could have been a good enough liar. And I was going to tell everybody what happened. Well, I was going to give
him
a brave
stance you took at the end.
I was going to give him a version of what happened.
How do you think? So, like, wait. So you watched me fall into like the gears of a
no.
Machine
that
or
was
something?
the thing. It was again. It was I jumped into the dream midstream, and like I didn't know how you died. I didn't see it. I didn't see your body or anything. It was like I was just hanging out in my apartment, and then at some point it popped into my head like, you're gonna have to figure out what you're going to do about the fact that you accidentally killed Tim. And I was like, oh, no, you're right, dream brain. I'm going to have to figure that out. And then, very quickly realized, like, I'm not going to be able to lie.
I would be offended by this, Tom, but in my dreams, you don't even exist. You've never existed.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't even think about you, Tom.
You don't even dream about me like I do.
I don't dream. Most nights I don't dream about you.
I don't even, and I haven't been having a lot of dreams lately, Tim, either. So I think if anything, you should be thankful.
Maybe I'm worried. If you're not having a lot of dreams, maybe this was a premonition.
Oh, or maybe I'm one of those, like when I go to sleep, I'm in a different reality.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, it could be one of those situations. You never know.
Yeah.
Again, I'm hazy on how those situations work, just like I'm hazy on how you died.
Maybe it was the aliens implanted the idea in your head to see how you'd react.
Yeah.
While you slept.
Maybe they want me to do it.
I don't like this look in your eye, Tom.
Maybe they're like, you know what humanity's problem is? It's Tim.
Someone's got to step up.
That's what's holding humanity back. It's not the constant
That'd be a bummer.
Wars and poverty and.
If an ultra advanced alien species came and was just like, Tim, you're the problem. You're holding humanity back. Your death would cause humanity to thrive.
Yeah,
I'd be bummed. I'd be to put it lightly. I'd be pretty bummed.
Yeah, there's really only one way to take that, and that's negatively.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's hope. Hey, let's hope you're able to keep falling. What if they keep abducting you to try and tell you that, and every time you're like, this fucking guy just keeps going back to sleep. We're trying to tell him. We're trying to tell him he's holding everybody back. And, he wakes up, he blinks, he looks around the spaceship, and then he just goes back to sleep.
It's good strategy, Tom. It's saved my life numerous times.
That's true. It's gotten you this far, and that explains the mess we're all still in.
Tom, this week we're tackling a subject near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's Neil Young week here on the Complete Guide to Everything.
Yes. Old Uncle Neil, as Pearl Jam called him.
Yeah, Tom,
Mm-hmm.
quick disclaimer. Neil Young is like my guy, my dude.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So if you say anything insulting about him, the next time I see you, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to beat the shit out of you. So watch what you say. No jokes. No jokes.
No jokes?
Yeah.
Why?
Serious.
Just because he's
Well,
an
no
old
insulting
curmudgeon
jokes.
that I can't make any jokes?
He's an old curmudgeon, but like in the best way.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Like, I'm not as big of a Neil Young fan as you, but I am a Neil Young fan. And, yeah, I do like the way he's curmudgeonly. He's curmudgeonly about the right things.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's 76 years old and he's cranky, and like it could be a lot worse.
But he's been cranky for 50-something years.
Yeah, like when did he and Pearl Jam? When was Mirrorball? Like 1992 or whatever.
I was gonna say 92. That's my guess. Let me see.
So he
95 was
95.
Mirrorball, yeah.
So he was 50 years old, but he seemed like he was 150 years old at the time. To me, a Pearl Jam fan kid, I was like, oh yeah, this old man playing, what is this song that he's playing at the VMAs with Pearl Jam?
Well, but that's, everybody used to be a lot older than they are now, I want to say.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, I guess you could argue that it's relative that,
right.
We were young, but yeah, I mean, he was about the age that Dave Grohl is now.
Oh yeah.
But again, you ask a 14-year-old, hey, Dave Grohl, he's like a cool young guy, right? They'd be like, no, he's his kids are older than me. Like, no, of course not.
Exactly.
But Neil Young, I think because he was cranky, just always seemed older than he actually is.
What I'm saying is a cranky 76-year-old in 2022 could be cranky about way worse things than Neil Young is being cranky about.
Yeah. So, I mean, we won't talk too much about it, but he's cranky right now about Spotify and Joe Rogan.
But he's also cranky about climate change and Monsanto and the oil companies and
well, Tim, you're not even bringing up low bitrate audio streams.
Which, Tom, I side with Neil on this one. I think it's messing up our brains.
Yeah, you think that's what did it out of everything?
I mean, I think it's part of it.
Now, you don't think that Neil Young leaving Spotify over Joe Rogan spreading COVID misinformation isn't just a cynical ploy to sell more Pono players?
Tom, you're gonna need to give the audience a little bit more context there.
Pono is these oh God, I almost said MP3 player. He would have spit in my face if I said that.
Remember when Richard Marx listened to our Richard Marx episode, and I said a bunch of mean things about Richard Marx, and then he
reached out,
came at me on Twitter
6 hours later.
Yeah. I hope Neil Young listens to this and realizes what a cool guy I am.
I doubt it. The best somebody like you could hope for is Neil Young being like, to you.
Yeah.
But the Pono player, Neil Young, years ago when the iPod was at its peak, was real mad about the fact that MP3s are compressed. And the MP3 compression was a really big deal at the time because basically it was, somebody figured out, hey, if we can throw out like 90% of the data on an audio CD because it's happening at frequencies that the human ear isn't particularly sensitive to.
Right.
And guess what? The internet's slow as hell. So if we can make a song 3 megabytes instead of like 50 megabytes, people will actually be able to download it. But again, it was compressed. And Neil didn't like that, so he came up with his own player called a Pono player. It was shaped like a Toblerone, and you could buy high quality, high bit rate audio from the Pono store that would then play losslessly on the Pono player.
Right.
Now, do you think part of the problem was that like FLAC already existed as an audio codec?
And
people were like,
probably.
just use FLAC because like there were
but
FLAC.
it's also the same way. Okay, guys.
Let me explain what
FLAC
is. FLAC is a lossless audio codec, so it's still compressed, but it is lossless, not lossy. So it's not throwing anything out. So everything from the CD, every single bit, it's still digital, but every bit is still there. It's just compressed like a zip file.
Right. So Tom, the way that there were MP3 players before
the iPod,
like I think what he was trying to do was
popularize it.
Yeah, make it a little bit more fashionable.
Because
who would make it more fashionable than 70-year-old? This was 2015 that it was released.
Oh, really?
70-year-old men.
Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not.
I thought it was like 2005.
No.
Okay.
And he had been talking about it for years.
You're right. And maybe that's why.
But like, look, I know you listen to music on like a MacBook speakers. Like you don't care what music sounds like when you listen to it.
I've got a nice pair of Sony headphones.
Right, but
but it's still Bluetooth, yeah.
But like I think he's onto something. I think music does sound better when it's not horribly compressed or like streamed at low resolution, low bit rate. It's fine. Like he's right. He made a portable music player that looked like a Toblerone, and people dragged him, and people didn't want that, and that's fine. To honor him, should we put this episode out in Pono format only? Only? Because I've been mastering them for Pono. It was called Porno. Every week.
Well, great, because once that Pono store comes back, we'll be all set.
He did like a crowdfunding thing or something for it, which like. When this is the one thing, like, oh yeah, he did Kickstarter for it.
Okay.
It's like when Neil Young, a hippie who's worth $600 billion, is like, fund my weird music player on Kickstarter. It's like but like, I almost went in at the like, get an autographed Pono player, one of the first 100 for like $6,000. I was like, life savings, scraped together. I'm getting this thing.
Yeah, but one day you could retire on that Neil Young signed Pono player.
Yeah,
part of me worries about like things like that. People like me and you are going to buy things like that. Like, this is a great investment. And then all the boomers are going to be dead. And everybody's going to be like, who the fuck's Neil Young? I'm not paying anything for that autographed Pono player.
That's why I don't
buy
buy
this Pono
things.
player's got writing all over it. It's worthless.
Yeah, I like my Pono players pristine.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's Neil Young's... Neil Young wasn't happy with Spotify to begin with.
Right.
Of course. I mean, somebody like him wouldn't be happy with like the way Spotify royalties work to begin with, let alone the compression stuff, and then let alone the fact that like all that money is just going to fund shitty content.
Yeah. And then apparently what we've learned from this whole thing is that nobody under 30 understands what it means to take a principled stance on anything.
Yeah, a lot of people thought like, oh man, like Neil Young got owned because he said Neil Young or Joe Rogan, and they said Joe Rogan. And it's like, of course they said Joe Rogan. They spent $100 million on it.
Yeah. Either way, they had to pay Joe Rogan over $100 million, whether or not they have his podcast.
Yeah, and like I imagine Spotify does not make all that much. Spotify doesn't make that much money off of like a new Taylor Swift album when it comes out, let alone how much they make off of like backlist stuff.
Tom,
and like most of Neil Young's audience doesn't know how to use a computer or phones or anything anyway.
That's not true, Tom. They like Neil Young's audience were guys who were like computer guys in the 90s.
I was
so,
going
like,
to say
there are a lot of like
he had like a big Gen X
Usenet
following
groups
I
about
think,
yeah,
because
exactly.
of like Pearl Jam and whatnot.
There are a lot of websites that cover like Neil Young news that look like they've like the news is new, but like the design hasn't been updated since 2003.
Still running on a GeoCity site.
Yeah.
But it's the #1 Neil Young news site. What do you think about the idea that Neil Young is the like Godfather of Grunge?
I think that's true.
Yeah, because he wore flannels all the time.
It was more like grunge was like the Gen X attitude. Well, no, I guess he didn't have that attitude. He cared about stuff, and he cares about this stuff.
Right.
I guess he just, he famously just like writes simple songs, and it's more about feeling than it is about anything else. And Tom, I will say, for this episode, I could have like done research and like shored up like all the facts about him and stuff. That I thought, like, what would Neil Young do? And it'd be like, he'd just go through it and he'd feel it. And, like, even if the facts aren't 100% right, even if the chords aren't 100%
Tim,
right.
What do you mean if the facts? That's what he's so mad about. somebody's doing a podcast where all the facts are wrong.
Yeah, he'd like this one. He'd like this one.
He'd like this one. It's wrong about him.
I'm getting the feeling right.
Tim, me and you saw Neil Young live together once.
Yeah.
What year was that? That was the Greendale tour, I think, 2003?
2003, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I saw Neil Young 3 times on the Greendale tour.
Wow.
He brought a bunch of actors there. They did they did like a little play as they were playing.
But he was singing all the words and they were mouthing them.
Yeah. Tom, I got to tell you this thing about Neil Young. I thought Greendale was an okay album. I think it's an underrated album.
Yeah.
I think a lot of recent or 21st century Neil Young isn't so great, but like he's going for it, so who cares?
Right, yeah.
But nothing brought me more joy than like casual fans thinking they were going to hear Rockin' in the Free World, and it was like a 2-hour like sprawling, like all these songs were just with him singing all the parts.
but still actors moving around and like sets and everything.
Yeah, and it had like a very simple environmental message.
Yeah.
And, seeing these audience members like boomers at Jones Beach Amphitheater on Long Island
who are already tanked before they got in there.
Just wanted to hear some songs off Harvest.
Yeah.
Just wanted to hear some Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. And they were furious that they had to sit through that thing.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, and it was great because then, like, when he came out, I think it was when he came out for the encore or, like, at the very end. And it was, like, very obvious. Like, people were, like, booing him and stuff.
Happens every show. Though.
And he like very sarcastically, I mean, like sarcastically to those people, but honestly to everybody else was like, thank you so much for like supporting the new stuff. He's like, I like the old stuff too, but said something like, I'd shoot myself in the head if I just had to play that all the time. And then he did play, he brought out Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
And he played,
Crazy Horse played on Greendale.
Yeah, but they were like hidden. But like they were off stage, I think, during all the other stuff. Well, he got rid of the actors, and Crazy Horse came forward more.
Yeah.
And then he just like ripped through the hits.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
And to me, it was a great show. I saw it again at Radio City Music Hall, Tom, and I forget the third place where I saw it.
And did they have the Rockettes there? Did the Rockettes
They had
come
the
out?
world-famous Rockettes.
Oh, man. Well, that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience then to see the Rockettes performing to Neil Young's Greendale. Mouthing all the words along with the actors. All right. So tell me what is it about Neil Young that is so unique, that is so special, Tim, in your eyes?
Tom, he's a good songwriter.
I want to hear that feeling that Neil Young's supposed to be hearing right now.
He's a good songwriter and a great man. And he takes principle. He's you know what? He's the hippie that hippies were supposed to be. You know how all the hippies turned out to just be like garbage people, and then made turned out they were all like racists and misogynists, and then in the 80s they all became like Gordon Gekko type guys, and now they're all like
now they're all
storming the Capitol
hawking
and
NFTs.
Yeah. Neil Young was just like, oh, wait, like, he didn't get the memo that hippies were supposed to suck. And he was just like, oh, no, I think, like, we should just, like, do cool stuff and, like, make good music.
He always, he refused to sell his songs for commercials, which I believe he still has done, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe he might have like licensed some of it to like progressive candidates or
right, but not for like the new Roomba or whatever.
No, just listen to "This Note's for You," Tom, from 1989.
Oh,
it's all about how he would never do that.
Yeah, not even for the Pono player.
Not even for the Pono player.
The Pono player commercials famously just had public domain music. And it's like, listen to Happy Birthday when the Saints go marching in, hot cross buns. I didn't realize, I knew this, but I forgot about this, and I'm surprised I haven't seen more people bringing it up with all the stuff going on with him right now. Is that he got polio during the last major outbreak in Ontario when he was 7 years old and almost died.
Yeah, that's why he's that's why he like doesn't walk. Well.
Is that true? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And is that part of why everybody's assumed he's been an old man for a lot longer than he's been an old man?
I think so, because he's always like kind
of hunched over
around
and,
like an octogenarian since he was like 25.
During that same polio outbreak, Joni Mitchell also caught it. So yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. That nowadays he's like, look, I almost got killed because people weren't taking a vaccine, right? I assume by then the vaccine was out. It was making its way out. If this was the last major outbreak,
yeah,
I don't know. Who knows about science and history?
Nobody can know, Tom.
His family brought him to Florida in December 1951. They stayed there for 6 months to help him regain his strength. And he said his strongest memory from the trip was watching all the brand new American cars along the way, which he attributes to triggering his lifelong interest in cars.
He loves car culture.
Yeah, he does. And he tried to start like an electric car company, kind of.
Yeah, he Tom, in the 2000s, he became obsessed with creating the electric car.
Yeah.
And he released an album about it called Fork in the Road in 2009. And it was all songs about oil companies being bad and his new electric car that was coming out. I saw him at Madison Square Garden at the time, and he started playing all his hits, and it was a great show. And he played like thing with Neil Young. He's got like over 50 albums, 50 solo albums.
Yeah, he's a very prolific
and, like,
guy.
Got a whole bunch of songs. So like, and when you see him, like, you never know what he's gonna play, right? So like,
yeah,
you know,
he
like,
plays
so
what
he was playing.
wants to play.
He was playing some weird, like, deep cuts from like the Zuma era, like the Zuma sessions, and then like, then he was like, and now songs from my new album, Fork in the Road, and they had people bring out cue cards because I think like he just like they hadn't really rehearsed the songs much, and every song sounded the same, and every song was just like, we gotta ride an electric car because the oil companies are bad. And it was just like, I understand the sentiment here and I appreciate it, but
but I don't want to listen to songs about it.
I don't want to listen to an hour and 75 minutes of it. It was a lot,
man.
But yeah, and then it wound up causing a big fire at his ranch, and it burned up a bunch of his like old master tapes and stuff. Like,
yeah, you gotta be careful with that. Well,
how is he? He doesn't know how to build. Like, he's trying his best. He's a cranky old man trying his best, trying to invent
to build
things.
an electric car in his
He's
garage.
the closest thing we have to Doc Brown.
I was gonna say that was like a very Doc Brown period in his life. I feel like,
Yeah.
because I don't know if it was the truth, you know, how much of it was true, but it really seemed like nobody was helping him in his quest to build an electric car. And he wasn't trying to build it from scratch. He was trying to convert like an old Cadillac or something, right?
Yeah.
Now, Tim, if a guy who's so bad at building electric cars can write such a mediocre album, can you imagine how good Elon Musk's album about electric cars would be?
Tom, we didn't properly introduce it. Neil Young is a Canadian singer-songwriter.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we haven't even really talked about his music. We've been talking about his cars and his lossless music players and his politics, but not his actual songs.
Yeah.
And, Tim, I've got a special treat. Because
Are you
going to
sing the hits of Neil Young?
I might sing a few songs, but they might not be the versions you know, Tim, because I found a veritable treasure trove, actually, of Neil Young early song ideas.
What?
Yeah, I bought a Pono player off of eBay.
Okay.
And I plugged it into my computer, and it had a text file. And I looked at the text file, and it said it had originally been created in the 1960s. This text file.
The Pono?
No, not the Pono, just a text file. And it was just a big,
Which
long.
Is weird.
It is weird. And I realized, holy hell, that. And then I looked at it, and I was like, that's why it has this signature on it. The Pono player.
Pono had the signature?
Tim, I think this Pono player belonged to Neil Young himself.
Oh, Tom.
And
I always sign everything that I own myself. So
especially before you put it on
story
eBay.
checks out. Yeah, it's true.
But Tim,
how much did it cost you?
Oh, you don't want to know.
$6,000, like I was going to pay on Kickstarter.
Yeah, it cost me $6,000, like you were going to pay on Kickstarter. But it had a lot. Tim, these aren't the versions of the songs that you know. These ones are very different. And he also put some notes about what his ideas were, what the songs should be about once he got around to writing them.
This is a long preamble. I want to see how
well,
this
Tim,
turns
it's
out.
a historic thing, and the music historians listening to this with a pad and paper in hand, I just want to make sure they have the story straight. So the first song, Tim, we all know the song "Old Man, Take a Look at My Life."
Yeah, I do.
Well, did you know it was originally "Old Man, Take a Look at My Wife. She's a lot like you." And then he wrote, this was about the time Neil Young saw a guy that looked a lot like his wife.
Wow.
And then
he put like liner notes about the.
He put liner notes. He didn't have all the lyrics yet.
Oh. Did he have other lyrics to it? Could you?
No, it just says, "Old man, take a look at my wife. She's a lot like you."
Okay.
Fell in love with a cinnamon swirl, and in this he has a location note that he was sitting in a Starbucks when he wrote that.
In 1968.
Yeah, I think it was probably the first Starbucks.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, didn't know that he was hanging out in Chicago at the time, but I mean, Seattle.
Seattle, yeah. Well, Tim, he toured all over the place. Of course, he might have only been there for an afternoon, but he liked this coffee so much, he started writing a song about it, and he's like, it should be about a girl. People like songs about girls, not, the foam in a latte.
Right.
Keep on searching for a fart I stole.
That was Heart of Gold?
Yeah, that was the original version of Heart of Gold.
He stole a fart?
Yeah, man.
Was there any explanatory?
That one, honestly, there isn't a follow-up note about what that one was about. I think that...
that one's confounding, if we're being honest.
I think that one, it was supposed to be up to the listener to interpret.
Yeah, he could often get like a little esoteric.
Yeah.
A little
poetic.
Poetic.
This next one, though, it's a little more obvious about what it was about. And it was, I see the Beatles and the damage done. And this is about the time this is about the time he saw the Beatles break a microwave in a green room.
Oh man.
Yeah, fucking Ringo put aluminum foil in there.
I mean, that seems plausible. I mean, I don't know. I don't think microwaves were really all that
they had him at the Ed Sullivan show.
That's interesting. That one it makes sense that Ringo would have an innocent mistake.
Yeah,
they were young boys. They don't know. Also, they weren't used to the high life, microwaves and whatnot.
Yeah,
They were
and
poor
Neil Young
boys.
tried to stop him. He tried to tell him what they were doing, and John Lennon said, "Leave him alone." And I guess to keep on the food related ones, did you know the original version of "Like a Hurricane"? I mean, that song. You are like a hurricane.
Tom, this sounds like you're making fun of him, and I don't want to have to kick your ass.
No, I'm trying to sing as accurately as possible. Well, did you know, Tim, that originally that song was like a curry stain?
Like a curry stain?
Like a curry stain. He had dropped some curry onto his trousers. And
stained his trousers with
yeah, and he was still about like a woman he had a relationship with. But then he was like, well, describing somebody to be like a hurricane is probably like a little more poetic than saying they were like a curry stain.
It depends on, how you carry the metaphor forward.
I thought we were done with the food related ones, but no, there's a few more.
A few more.
You know the song "Hey Hey My My."
Yeah, Into the Black.
Well, no, Tim, you know the wrong version because the original version was "Into the Snacks and Out of the Chews." It was about when he was out of Charleston Chews on the tour bus, and he had to go into the snacks. Into the other snacks.
Because they're out of the Charleston Chews.
And he was mad because he had asked for that at the store. And that's, you paid for this, but they give you that. It was about them not giving him Charleston Chews.
They gave him other candy
being
instead.
like, here's a bunch of other snacks. And then, of course, the song Into the Snacks and Out of the Chews. Into the Chews and Out of the Snacks. Oh, both of them are up there. There's a more modern one. Keep on knocking up a ski girl. This is about when he was a ski instructor in the late 80s.
He was a ski instructor?
Tim, he did a lot of things. He made that Pono player. He made an electric car. He was a ski instructor, and he kept knocking up a ski girl.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, like, with impregnating her, you mean?
Yeah, knocking her up properly.
Wow.
Another... I think there's just one
This is
more.
a weird text file that you found.
It is a weird. That's why it has to be seen to be believed, Tim. He had one more song about food. You know, he didn't write a lot of songs about food, which is so interesting. Because
I can't think of one song where the final version is about food.
Many of the early versions were about food.
That's fascinating.
So of course you know about After the Gold Rush.
Yeah, maybe my favorite album of his. Are you talking about the song?
Yeah. Well, maybe it will surprise you to know that it was originally called After the Old Mush, and it was about him looking forward to dessert after a bad meal.
Of mush.
Yeah, of old mush.
Of old mush.
Yeah, he got slapped by a lunch lady for for singing this song.
I mean, yeah, you call your meal old mush.
Yeah. You know the song Ohio, of course.
I do. And you know what that song's about, right, Tom?
Yeah. Well, it used to be about something very different, Tim. The original version was Ohio, and it was about Ed McMahon. It was about the time he ran into Ed McMahon at a party.
At Kent State?
No, Kent State had nothing to do with it at this point.
Oh, this was... Okay.
This happened in Los Angeles. He just ran into him at a party. And Ed McMahon greeted him with a, hi-oh!
That one adds up. That one makes the most sense to me, I think.
I mean, a lot of these other ones will probably make sense to you. Brown by the liver.
Brown by the liver?
Brown by the liver. It's about psoriasis of the liver. What is this one?
I cannot believe how strange this text file is that you found. Yeah.
The last one I have on here, what is this? Long May You Run.
Yeah, I know Long May You Run.
Now, that was that Neil by himself, or was that
I think it might have been, it's him and Stephen Stills.
Okay. Well, originally that was about an off day on their tour where he had been on the beach, which you might think is,
had something to do with the song On the Beach.
Inspired the song On the Beach, but no, it inspired him to write a song called Long Day of Sun. And then
you know what? It's nice. I'm happy that he took a second pass at a lot of these songs.
Yeah, well, and
I mean, I think Long Day in Sun or whatever, like
Long Day of Sun.
Long Day of Sun. I don't know if Long May You Run is an improvement. I think Long Day of Sun is.
Hey, it's something we can all relate to. I screwed up, Tim. There's another song that he wrote about food. It was when it was actually around the same time he was eating when he wrote After the Old Mush, when he was working in a cafeteria. And unfortunately the lunch ladies they had found an old dented can of peas in the back.
Oh, man.
And you gotta be careful.
You got a lot of songs out of this one running with this lunch lady.
Well, Tim is a prolific point in his career.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, he wasn't just running. Like I said, he was working there. This was before
Right.
he was working at the ski resort.
Right.
They
I never
found
knew all this about him.
they found this
The various odd jobs he held.
Yeah, man, that's what makes him like a real salt of the earth kind of guy.
Yeah.
They had found this big can of peas and it was all dented. And Neil warned them. He's like, "You gotta be careful for botulism." And they were like,
Right.
"Nah, we're gonna serve it anyway." Well, a lot of people got very sick, and it inspired his song, "Keep on Mopping Up the Pea Hurl." And then the last one in this note.
Okay. I have a
Is-
question about this. How long did
Okay.
it take you to unearth this text file from the Pono?
As soon as I plugged it into my computer, Tim, it opened up on its own.
Yeah, but like if you read between the lines, how long did it take you to discover these songs?
It took the better part of an afternoon, to be honest with you. And then the last, of course, we all know Harvest Moon. But unfortunately,
Beautiful song, yeah.
unfortunately, we were not treated to the original version, which is Farthest Goon. But I don't know what that one's about, actually.
Farthest Goon?
Yeah, Farthest Goon. I don't know what that one was about. I guess maybe, I don't know, just
Please speculate.
a lot of, maybe like, a run-in with a lot of goons. And he was waiting till the farthest goon got there so he could fucking mop the floor with them. So he could really beat the shit out of all of them at the same time.
All the goons.
All the goons waiting for
That
even
makes sense.
the farthest goon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are all the just the early versions that I saw.
This was a fascinating list you brought us through.
It really adds a different element to him that, a lot of fans might not even know because they don't have his Pono player like I do.
Right. Are you thinking that this was included on every Pono player? As like an
No,
Easter
I
egg?
think no, because like I said, Tim, he wrote his name on it. It says property
Right.
of Neil Young on it.
Oh, it says property of Neil Young on it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, the clues keep getting really.
Exactly. And like I said, Tim, I opened up this file and it said file created January 1st, 1960.
He wrote all these. Wow.
Yeah, it said.
So he had the ideas for these songs that were released, some of them decades later.
Yeah.
He was
They
already
just always
working on
kept-
them
Yeah, and then how you can press
as a 15-year-old boy.
yeah, you know how you can press like Apple or Command I and look at file information,
Sure.
and it will tell you like created in Microsoft Word or something. This said created in one of those computers that was so big it took up a room.
Wow. I mean, he's always been a tinkerer, Tom.
Exactly.
He had to probably every letter of what is the fart I stole?
Keep on searching for a fart I stole. Yeah.
Yeah, he had to put hole punches in a card and
Right.
put that card for every letter of
And
that.
it probably would blow a few vacuum tubes. Have to
Yeah.
replace those vacuum tubes. Those things weren't cheap, let alone easy to clean up.
Strange that he wouldn't just write this down in a notebook somewhere.
I don't think he
old Neil-
trusted. He's a real tech head, Tim.
Yeah.
I want to be clear. It wasn't on the Pono player the whole time. He put it on the Pono player later, presumably.
Right. Tom, let's talk Neil Young gossip.
Ooh, okay.
There's a wedge driven between Neil Young and other old famous curmudgeon David Crosby.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very funny in retrospect that Crosby, Stills, and Nash were like, we need another crank in here.
Yeah, I mean David Crosby's the other, he's not the other side of the coin from Neil Young because like David Crosby like is I think on the right side of most things, but he does have that mentality of like, there's no good music after 1975 except music that like my friends made that I produced and played guitar on or something.
Yeah, where I think Neil Young, I mean, I don't know what his thoughts on music are nowadays, but I mean, I think that was like when we were growing up, that was one of the things that was cool, that he was like, yeah, Pearl Jam's awesome. I'm going to make an album with them. Like, I like these guys. I like the music they're making.
Yeah. He mostly did that, I think, to piss off Crazy Horse.
It sounds like he also did to piss off his record label or piss off Pearl Jam's record label.
Yeah, that's probably true, too. Yeah. He was supposed to, like, for Mirrorball, the story as I recall, as recounted in Shaky, the biography of Neil Young, is that they were going to go into the studio, Crazy Horse was his on and off backing band. They just came out with a record, Tom, called Barn. It's not bad. It sounds like Neil Young and Crazy Horse. It's fun.
But Neil Young's not on it? Or he is?
No, Neil Young's on it.
Oh, okay.
Crazy Horse does have some solo albums, though, and they're good, too. I guess not solo albums, some non-Neil Young albums.
Yeah.
But he was like, all right, Crazy Horse, meet me at the studio. I think like they were like doing it in Georgia somewhere or something. It's like the week after next. And they were like, cool. He's like, I'll give you all the details in a bit, but like keep that clear. And then they never heard from him. And then they saw him on MTV playing with Pearl Jam. He came out during a Pearl Jam set on the VMAs.
Yeah.
And then they just heard the next week that, that album that he was going to do with you guys, he asked Pearl Jam to do it instead and never told you guys that your services wouldn't be needed.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, he's a curmudgeon, like you said, in good ways, but it also seems like in like his personal life, he's a big pain in the ass.
He just seems like he doesn't understand doesn't have very good interpersonal skills.
There's one notable exception, and that's when he tried to get his record label to sign Charles Manson.
No, he didn't.
Tim, in the late 60s, at a gathering at the house of Beach Boys drummer Dennis Wilson, Neil was introduced to Charles Manson. In his autobiography, Waging Heavy Peace, he recalls Manson picking up Young's guitar and impressing the room with his off-the-cuff Dylan-esque style. After finding Manson didn't have a recording contract, Neil recommended that Reprise set him up. The Sharon Tate, Bianca murders occurred shortly thereafter, making Charlie Manson's name was known the world over. Young commented on the murders with the song Revolution Blues.
Do you know Revolution Blues, Tom?
No.
That song rules.
Yeah? Is it obvious it's about Charlie?
Yeah.
I mean, is it as obvious as a song like Keep on Searching for a Fart I Stole, what it's about?
I mean, that one's poetic.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a case of him having good interpersonal skills with Charles Manson.
I think that was overstated. And have you read Waging
It's in
Heavy
his
Peace?
autobiography.
Have you read it?
No.
It's weird. He'll tell a story like that, and then he'll tell a story about walking around Costco in Hawaii with the CEO of Salesforce, talking about how, like, he's like, what's his name? Mark Benioff? Is that that guy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, he's a really great man. His art's really good. And boy, do I love Costco. You can buy as much of anything as you need there. And
I mean, Costco's apparently a good employer, so I could see him liking that. I found this article that was like 70 interesting facts about Neil Young, or like things you didn't know. And it also mentions,
I bet I knew them all, though.
Although Neil memorably wails, "Down by the river, I shot my baby," the song isn't about anyone dying. In a 1970 interview, he clarified, quote, There's no real murder in it. It's about blowing your thing with a chick. And by thing, I think he meant load.
Yeah.
So that's what he meant by shooting his baby.
So David Crosby was mad at Neil Young. He went on the Howard Stern show.
Yeah.
Because Neil Young divorced his wife, who has since passed, and married Daryl Hannah.
Yeah.
That's a weird pairing, but also makes sense.
Yeah. And like it seemed like he's so much older than Daryl Hannah. But I don't think he's like that much older.
He's 14 years older.
Yeah, that's
15
that's
years,
nothing when you're in your. I mean, she's in her 60s. He's in his 70s. Nobody's like, oh my god.
Yeah, but hey, David Crosby is like, oh my god. I think
Why?
David Crosby's just jealous.
Why does he think like Daryl Hannah is like messing with his mind or something? What's his problem with her?
I don't know. What's David Crosby's problem
is he
with
worried?
anybody?
Is he like, ever since he's got with her, he's too busy blowing his thing with that chick.
Down by the river? Yeah.
Yeah.
That is how David Crosby kind of talks, though. He uses like weird slang.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I didn't know people actually ever talked like that.
Did you also know that for a short period in 1966, Neil shared a Toronto apartment with Rick James?
Yeah, they were in a band together.
Says
Minor Birds.
We did some wild things. It's all very hazy to me now. I'm glad I made it through that stage. It got a little dicey. There were some drugs going on. I remember singing one song for about a day and a half.
Yeah. No, they were in a band together. They came up together.
Yeah, he was in a lot more bands than I realized. Neil Young.
Yeah, Buffalo Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Did you realize he was in that one, Tom?
I did. I thought.
Did you realize that he was in that freaking band?
Well, for a long time, I thought he was in Crosby, Stills, and Nash. But then.
Oh, no.
Yeah, then somebody set me straight. And he's written over 30 songs about the moon, about or mentioning the moon.
Yeah, he likes the moon. You know what he says when people say that his songs sound the same?
What?
He goes, yeah, man, it's all one song.
Whoa.
See, he's like a hippie in a cool way.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a snarky answer. And it's like, yeah, and like, 30% of those songs are really good.
Well, when we were talking about Greendale, I also found this thing where, according to Neil Young, Bono tried to give him songwriting advice after listening to Greendale, and he told him the songs need more hooks that went over and over again, and more people could hear them.
Thanks, Bono.
I mean, and like 2003 was when U2 was all about like, we have songs now that are just like the same over and like just earworms. Like this song is 5 seconds looped over and over. I
don't like U2. I've never liked U2.
Yeah.
And I'm here to challenge the Edge to a fist fight.
I don't know if he'll take you up on it. He'd be worried about
Edge.
somebody knocking his hat off.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what's under that beanie.
Yeah. What do you think?
Creep.
What do you think it is?
I don't know, the
Little
Edge.
creep?
The Edge. Oh.
You think?
Oh, what an intimidating name.
You think maybe underneath he's got like a flat head, and that's why he's called
Probably.
the Edge? Yeah.
Or maybe he just it doesn't have the top of his skull. It's an exposed brain.
Oh wow. Well,
Yeah.
that sounds dangerous. Sam, you shouldn't fight him, no matter how mad you are at him.
Yeah, and I could never take up
it sounds like you could
fisticuffs
kill
against
him very
the
easily
co-writer
if he's
of the
walking around like that.
Yeah, and like the man co-wrote Spider-Man: Turn Off the Dark.
Yeah, it's true.
I have a little respect.
If you like the show, you can find out more at tcgte.com. Hey, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/complete guide. You can get books of podcasts and all the other stuff, weekly episodes, weekly bonus episodes. There's also a tier for ad-free early episodes of this show and much more. tcgte.com. Follow us on Twitter at Complete Guide. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Tom Reynolds.
Follow me at Your Pal Tim.
And check out, this is what I'm going to do, Tim. I'm going to say check out tcgt.com. It's got links to all this stuff.
Okay.
I feel like we're getting too long with all the plugs.
Yeah. Just sign up for the Patreon.
Don't
do any of the other stuff.
Yeah,
Cares. Follow us on Twitter. You'll see the cover art every week.
Some people don't see the cover art depending on their podcast player of choice. So,
yeah. Tom.
Yeah.
Neil Young, very influential musician, had so many different phases of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Some funny stuff in the 80s when he was battling Geffen Records and was intentionally making difficult albums to piss off David Geffen and get out of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
But really just like very distinct, interesting parts of his career. He's a filmmaker. He made a lot of films. He's a philanthropist. Tom, he's really into trains, and he bought Lionel trains.
I have that in my notes, and we didn't even mention that he was an owner in Lionel trains for a while.
And it's very there's so much to him, and we didn't get to a lot of it, and it's because you really found that Cracker Jack text file.
Well, yeah, Tim,
that,
unfortunately, we couldn't cover a lot of stuff other people have already covered because we had an exclusive that I was very excited about.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was great. It's just, there was so much we could have covered, and, we had this scoop. We had an exclusive.
Well, sometimes you gotta go with the scoops. You gotta go with the exclusives. I just hope this doesn't cause a rift between him and the surviving Beatles.
Yeah, I mean, Ringo, it really makes Ringo look like a fool.
He really does. But I mean, and honestly, it's like, come on, man. Microwaves weren't even really out yet. Sure, they had him at Ed Sullivan's show.
Right.
But, how's Ringo supposed to know? He was probably sitting there in the green room and, somebody probably explained it to him. He's like, oh, that's great. I've got some aluminum foil I've been meaning to heat up.
We're back on this. We're back on the text file, huh?
Well, again, Tim, it's what people are tuning in to hear about, probably. They probably read about this on Rolling Stone, and they were like, wow, well, I thought I knew everything about Neil Young, but this guy's got his Pono player with a text file from 1960. Maybe I have to rethink everything I thought I knew about Neil Young. I know he wrote so many gossipy songs.
And most of them weren't gossipy. That was just the one guy. Most of them were about food and farting.
Just one was about, it wasn't even about farting. It was about a fart he stole.
And we'll see you next week.
That was a HeadGum podcast.